We're going to draw and paint birds. So here's an example of a Baltimore Oreo, and I found that on the internet with this reference right here. So I basically am sketching from some photographs, and I have other references as well. They include the beginner's guide. These are eastern region of birds. I also have this lovely older Audubon book, and so I was sketching this little chickadee right here and other birds. I'm learning my birds at the same time. So here is one that I found in the Audubon book. It's a junco that comes to our bird feeder here, and I was just looking at these lovely little bird bodies. I thought, well, let's do some sketching first. So this is, I don't even know what this one is, but this is the one I'm going to start with today. And I started to sketch it. Let me get a more sharp pencil here. This bird is got his mouth open, and he's obviously singing, and that's a great thing to do. And he's just, you know, the more colorful birds are usually the male bird, and kind of like in the cardinal, which I haven't attempted to sketch a cardinal. We're seeing a male cardinal come to our bird feeder, and he's quite lovely. The body of the bird starts, of course, with the head and how it connects to the rest of the bird body. It just has to be observed with whatever your reference is. I'm following this shape. I think I need to make that a little longer. And then the tail, I'm barely gonna get that to fit here. It's thin. And there's the the legs have sometimes that part of the feet rather come. Now this bird is perched on a stump, but I want my design today to do a little, I want to work with putting the branch so that I'm dividing my space and looking at what I want to talk about today is the positive and negative spaces. So it's interesting that this morning when I get up and I look, has nothing to do with birds, but I want to talk about it anyway. So this morning I got up and I always look at my calendar, May 27, and this is Jan van Eyck, and this is very symmetrically placed, but it has this great view out the window. And the composition is based on a symmetry, on perfect symmetry. This is, when I say perfect symmetry, it's not like a butterfly being the same on both sides, but it has a wonderful sense of balance. And then I snuck what happens tomorrow, and I think, whoa, what a contrast. This is all about design, but the yellow is repeated, and the way the shapes are, and the lines that go throughout this little abstract piece. And every now and then you just have to look at great art. And here is this beautiful photograph for Friday. And it's an anonymous photograph. It looks like it's Paris, two friends, and they're wearing almost identical dresses. But what struck me was this beauty, the beauty of this negative space that makes up patterns within the whole design. So I go, wow, I have to look at art because it makes me think about what am I doing? And this is so simple, just drawing this bird. But I think one of the things that we tend to do sometimes is that we place things and then we don't think about all the space that's around it. So obviously I need to fill the space, and I like the rule of thumb of touching wherever I can on the side. So the branch allows me, instead of using the stump, the branch allows me to touch the sides. Okay, so I'm working with my flat and my round today because I'm working small, and I want to put in a background, and obviously I didn't clean my brush very well from doing my last painting. I have blue on my brush, and that's okay. You'd think, well, we could use a blue sky. As a matter of fact, an earlier sketch that I was making, I thought, well, I can do a blue sky. And you see how I've used the branch here to divide the space. But I'm going to do something different. This bird is a yellow bird. And so I'm going to work with some complements. And the reason I ask about Marilyn's video that we might post and look at with color, the color wheel, and when we mix, and when we think about using complementary colors, they have multiple purpose. They complement each other, but they also negate each other out. So the opposite of this yellow will be a purple. Now, the other bird that I did earlier, I used red and green in the background because they are complementary. And here what I'm doing is just putting the water in so that I can apply my sky. Now, I'm mixing. I can do a little bit of my blue with my, I know, I'm thinking, why am I doing this? Perhaps the background, it creates a coolness. I don't want it to always be the same color. So if I am using my, and I have to be careful here because the beak is not going to, you don't need to paint over that. It will be slightly darker, but on this side it appears to be lighter. I am mingling in those two colors, which are my blue and my, to make a lavender. Wow, it's really kind of effective. It will read as sky, but it also will be a bit on the blurry side. So perhaps there are things that, that's pretty purple. And that's pretty dark. So I'm adding a little water to that. I don't want it to be quite. And whatever goes on one side has got to go on this side. So the branch probably is darker. By keeping a little light over here, maybe I'm dealing with balance and also variety. So a good painting has a sense of unity. It has a sense of unity because of variety and repetition. And I'm careful to keep a little bit of the trunk light. And I want to have that repetition of that pattern of purple in here. Okay, I like that background. And all I wanted to do was say, because the bird is going to have a lot of yellow here, I needed to go with a complementary color. So I like that. Now, but the problem is I do have to let that dry. Here is the one, and I have another one I've started. Here is one that I use the red and green in the background, and I use the red and green to make this little junco. It's a gray, but it is the fact that two complementary colors will mix and make a neutral color. So if I did do this little bird, but I'm kind of wondering here. I think I need to tilt this just a tad more so that you can see. Was that somebody getting a phone call just now? Maybe?
Maybe Faith.
Okay. Ah, Faith, okay. So here, here I have, sorry if I have that crooked, and thanks for cluing me in at any point. I'm gonna see if I can figure out what bird was I drawing. Oh my gosh, I have probably lost my place. Oh, it was a wren, I think. Okay, no, I won't jump to this one because I'm not sure what page I was on when I did that. I had a little girl call me this morning about sketching and painting in watercolor, and so I was illustrating for her. Now I wonder where this bird is. Okay, I have to go back to some of my references. Let me complete this bird, and then this will be what we work on, is composing our birds. A simple composition where we want to have interesting negative areas and then paint realistically. This has a shadowed belly, and I'm going to use the yellow and the purple to make my bird. Okay, so my limited palette today is a lavender and yellow. I am, and actually it's more yellow orange. So I'm mixing a touch of that same rose madder with my yellow color, and I'm gonna hope that I don't touch my purple or put my hand on my painting. So I even wrote on my little edge here, I wrote yellow and purple. So I'll remind myself that's all I'm going to use today. I don't know, that doesn't feel like the right color. So I'm thinking that I should be a little brighter. And it happens that if I lift, it does feel brighter. And there. Without touching my edge, I'm going to come in with that orange that I happen to have. It's going to run into this yellow now, but I'm keeping the breast of this light, and then I'll move down into more. Oh, I don't like that. That's too brown. So it's bright with a little bit of this orange, yellow orange. The opposite of orange on the color wheel is blue. So my yellow purple idea is stretched just a little by the introduction of blue and orange. Okay. And now I've have sort of put that shadow color. Could I get just a little darker? Yes. I could get just a little darker. And one way is to introduce the purple in my shadow. But I'm afraid I'll dull that too much. I will do a little right here. This is the purple, a touch of the purple into this back side, the bottom side, so that the bird has just a little bit, a hint. Now, I'm going to put a little more purple here simply because the wing is overlapping the body, and that would be that's pretty strong. Okay, and in the tail feathers, I am sketching with the purple some of the patterns. I really should do that on top of the lighter color, and I'm seeing that what I need to do to make that wing, we'll start with the yellow but put the purple on top. And the same thing here. Okay. The purple now, because it appears to be gray-brown, by my mixing, there really is no white right there, but for some reason I wanted to leave that just as a little edge. My mingling of these two colors will give me that brown gray, the purple and the yellow. And where I see it a little darker. And now I just really need to do a little detail. And of course the branch. Okay, now I need to let that dry a bit to put in Maybe this is a little too strong right here. Okay. And the bird's eye, of course. Okay. I'm going to switch the little round brush and put in, I can tell I'm not quite ready for that. This is dry enough down here for the branch. So the yellow and purple again. And I'm just putting in, and it makes a brown when you mix the yellow and purple together. I'm doing a little dry brush on this branch. And the legs, although not red, are kind of yellow again. We're not having to switch the colors too much. I have put a little blue and orange together to see if I make a color that's a little more in keeping with what I see here. And the feet of the bird. I'm also thinking that this color is nice for when I need to do the detail, but it's too wet, and I'm going to just use it on the branch. So the bottom side of the branch has more shadow. And just to soften that up, I use another brush with some water and just extend that or soften it. I don't really want the white to be that dominant. Seems like I just lost all my dark by doing that. But I'll come back. I'll come back and do a little more dark. So, you know, one of the things about our little Wednesday watercolor, when you go for the YouTube on the church site, you see this beautiful bird. And if I'm not mistaken, it's a blue-orange bird with a blue-orange background. So it's doing exactly what we're talking about, just we're doing different colors right now. But it has that beauty and with the complementary colors. All right. I'm just adding a little more shadow back to the bottom side of the branch. And let's fill this up more. Okay, now I need to add the detail. And with the bird beak, I'm using this purple. There's a bird singing right outside my window. I have no idea what it is, but it's so sweet. And this has some dark. I want to leave a little of the light. And my photo is so tiny, but I know that the eye has got some character here. More than likely has a little dot in the center. And I get a little darker there. This one's definitely singing. And I'll add my linear lines now that this is dry enough and put that detail in. And the other thing that we have to decide when we do these branches, if the painting needs something, if it needs just a little tweaking, does it need a leaf or does it need a little more? This is kind of a plain bird. Some of my birds have a lot of detail. And what is it that we need to do to really add to our bird? Okay, this one is pretty much done. Wow, that was quick. And my only other one to talk to you about was my big bird here. And what I did for the background of this Oriole, Baltimore Oriole, was that the branch did have a lot of pattern and leaves. And I believe that keeping my drawing, and it was from this particular reference that I could look at. And this one was this was more fun to do because of all the leaves and the floral. And because I did the wet in the background, while that was still wet, I could do the ghosty stuff as well. Again, you have the light hitting the top of the bird and the shadow down below and the little dot of the beak. So here, it depends on which of your bird choices you have, but I think that's what we're going to do today. So with that in mind, thank you for joining us, and hope that you will consider going to your references of birds or checking out the sheet that is printed to reference one of these cute little guys and do your own version.